Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. Nothing can stop me.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning, Vietnam. It's good to be back.
It is good to be
Yeah,
back.
it is.
Welcome, everyone, to the Money Matrix podcast, where smart money finds a smarter way. You can reach us at
Go Mbank everywhere.
There you go.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We have a lot of places to be found. Just go Mbank.
So today's going to be a couple of interesting topics. We're going to talk about the Fed cut, what it means to the rates. We've seen an inverse of what everyone anticipated and was waiting on. We're going to talk a little bit about the jobs numbers, GDP numbers, and then we're going to get into Jimmy Kimmel and finally Charlie Kirk. So that's the game plan for us today. Let's get started. I want to talk about the Fed cut because there's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of people that don't understand exactly what's going on, especially related to the mortgage market. Last week, the Fed cut the Fed funds rate by a quarter point. When that happened, the 10-year bond was trading right around 4%, 3.99 to 4%. As of this morning, the 10-year bond is somewhere around 4.17. So it's up 17 basis points from where it was when the cut happened. And this directly affects the mortgage market. Right now, rates have been adjusted to the upside twice over the last week because of the different climate that we had. And a lot of it is to the numbers. But what is happening here, people automatically assume just because there's a cut, then that means they're set, the rates are coming down, and that's out. And no one looks at it as an evolving every single day. It's a moving organism that it changes daily. And it's based on what the numbers are and the economic numbers. We have weekly economic numbers that come out, jobs numbers, GDP numbers, inflationary numbers. And as they become stronger and weaker, the market adjusts accordingly. Right now, unfortunately, we're in a negative trend, and we've gave back 17 basis points of what we lost or what we had gained in terms of favorable rates. This doesn't always mean rates are going to come down and stay down. A lot of it has to do with the numbers, and I know you're going to speak on that right now.
Jason, I know you've seen this because we have clients every single day who come to us and say, I heard they cut the rates. Hard to explain to people that, like you're saying, the Fed announcing a rate cut, the market's priced this stuff in weeks in advance.
This has been priced in for months.
So you would only see a very cosmetic move in rates. It would never be a significant change because everybody's already priced in this drop. However, there was the weeks leading up to the rate cut, there was hype about, oh my God, what if they cut a half a point? And then when the quarter point rate cut comes in, and it should have been an exciting, happy thing, everyone's like, oh, it wasn't half a point. And all of a sudden it's a disappointing figure and we see people freaking out. I'll get into the numbers right now, but it's interesting to have clients constantly see one side of the picture and not understand that even though a quarter point rate cut happened, it doesn't mean their rate necessarily went down.
The rates have been higher, the highest it's been since like September 9th, which is sad because people that were waiting on the sidelines for this first rate, they're like, all right, that happened. I'm getting back into the market. And now you look at it and you're like, oh my God.
Sorry you waited.
Yeah, I'm sorry I waited. Exactly.
So on September 17th was when the rate cut happened. It was the first rate cut of 2025, which is, I'm sure you're all pretty upset about. They signaled potentially 2 more rate cuts this year, which could be a big deal. If we get those, we're all expecting another quarter point. But if we got 2 more cuts, that'd be fantastic. The market took it as the Fed is still playing cagey because we didn't get a big cut. They're saying things like, it's risk management. The economy's still not great. We need to see jobs. We need to see GDP. So they're still playing that push the can down the road line. The tension is still there.
If you noticed, after the Fed cut itself, and as the day progressed and Powell spoke and you heard his comments, the market just started to deteriorate slowly because you keep hearing what he's saying. He was very hawkish in terms of his outlook, his views. Just everything was negative. Like doom and gloom almost. You have a lot of Fed governors who are positive, like, yeah, we should have cut 50 basis points. But that negativity from Powell just comes at you, and the markets look at it like, all right, what's the problem? When you have a couple of good numbers come in, for example, the unemployment filings were less than expected. The market went off on that, saying, okay, the job market isn't as bad as it was before. And again, today we had the jobs numbers came out also lighter than expected in terms of unemployment filings. The market's looking at this and saying, this is a problem. The job market is not that bad. But if you look at the grand scheme of things with the BLS numbers, you have a major problem.
Yes.
But if you look at the finite, of course, you can nitpick on everything. But if you look at it on the broad scale, Jason, you and I spoke about this a lot with the jobs numbers and how accurate or not accurate they are. The numbers are still there. It's clear that there's a problem in the jobs market. The tendency to focus on the finite stuff on a weekly basis is challenging for your day-to-day consumer.
Yeah. It's so challenging. We're in it, right? We do this for a living, and it's still hard to figure out what's going to happen. No one has a crystal ball. To sit on the sideline and try and make huge life decisions, be it in real estate or your investment portfolio for your family, and having such a reactionary market to the smallest things, it's how the data is presented, right? I could pick any data points and create a report.
Right.
I can create a narrative. Ever since COVID, I feel that it's really hard to look forward on these things because we don't have a long time of data to compare it to. Our measures moved, right? And everyone's become more reactionary and political. So with the politics, it just makes it increasingly hard. That's why I personally pay attention daily to the market so that we can tell our clients what's going on through our version of a crystal ball.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the cartoon Futurama. It's like an old Comedy Central show. There's an episode where their company becomes publicly traded, and the owner of the company is this old man, and he goes out on the podium in front of all the investors, and he starts speaking, and it's got the stock ticker behind him. And everything that he says, every word out of his mouth, the ticker's going lower and lower. I'm imagining Powell the same way. He's up there speaking, and every investor is just watching the ticker go down.
But it's true. Unfortunately, that guy yields a lot of power, and his words are...
We need a positivity.
We need a little bit of a smile, something.
Yeah, it's not just Powell. It's also the politicians in charge and the deals that are done. Because what's moving the markets is what's happening with the tariffs and how that's going to be looked at. Trump came in and just shook the whole bag. He said, I don't like the way it works, and I'm going to shake everybody up. And everyone went, oh, shit. We don't know how to look at this. We're going to plan for the worst. And it's just so challenging to sit there and try and figure out what's going to happen next. We just have to look from our experience and understand how the market works.
That's a great segue because you mentioned tariffs and the latest GDP numbers, or at least the latest update to the projection for Q3 came out today. Just so that everybody is aware, that number is going to be hopefully 3.3% GDP growth, which is a big step up. We saw in Q1 was 1.9 and Q2 was 3.8. The better numbers offset the 1.9. Yeah. It seems like the tariffs, although there was a one-time hit, hopefully a one-time hit for the tariffs, what that number does is basically whenever there's tariffs, imports slow down, and imports directly count negatively against the GDP. So less imports means higher GDP. Good for us, right? The real number that a lot of economists seem to be using, at least when I do my research, is real final sales to private domestic purchasers. And that figure seems to be on a slight upward trend as well and was revised up in the Q2 numbers by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. So everything looks to be recovering from the tariffs. There was a study that actually came out from Yale's budget office. And what they said was the tariffs will have a negative net impact on the GDP of 2025 and 2026 by about 0.5%, just across the board on average. So if you imagine that number as 3.3 after the negative 0.5, Trump's GDP would have been 3.8, right? The numbers could have been much better, right? But not saying that he's doing a bad job. It could have been better that way. But saying if you look at it in a positive way, his economy's doing really well.
He's bringing money in for the first time. So we're not at a deficit every month. We're at a cash flow positive. It's a big sign that the doom and gloom of, oh my God, the tariffs are going to blow up everything and blow up the economy. And it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. And everyone thought inflation is going to be this and that and the other. And we realized we're resilient and we can make it and we can push through. People adapt and adjust. That's credit to us human beings rather than to one specific person or entity. At the end of the day, you have to live, survive, and you have to do what you have to do. So regardless of 3.8 GDP, 3.3 GDP, there's going to be inflation somewhere. Maybe it's not what it used to be, thank God, but maybe it's not going to get to the 2% or whatever the number that they're going to call it now.
The goal.
And it stays at 3%. It's still much better. As a country, I feel like we're more formidable now, and we're recognized more of a superpower and not as those chumps that we were before. And I feel good. I feel very optimistic. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming into the fourth quarter and into 2026. I feel great about everything that's going to happen.
I know Jason does too.
I feel optimistic about it as well. Just to lay down a little bit of sarcasm, I just really want to thank the credit card companies for helping everyone get into high credit card debt at high interest rates and compounding debt, and to increase their spending. A joke grenade, right? I can spend, but I'm calling out the red flag in the future that we've already seen. It's the highest credit card debt the nation's ever had. People are relying on their credit. I think that really has something to do with the growth of our economy.
Yeah, preach.
That is definitely a challenge, and it's something that has to be looked at. I don't know what that fix is, because you just can't be like, all right, we're just going to let everyone charge up everything and cancel the debt, like the student loan cancellation and stuff like that. It's your obligation. Unfortunately, a lot of people do what they do and then file bankruptcy. The difference this time is you have a lot more equity in your home. I'm not saying you should just cash out to pay off your credit cards, because that'll create another 2007, 2008. Your home was a piggy bank. But I don't think that's the right answer. There has to be some happy medium that makes sense where you can offset that.
You're leveraging your assets more and not your credit the whole time.
Exactly.
So
I think people are getting better, more well-versed in how to utilize it, because there's a lot more information available than 2007, 8. There's a lot more structure and regulations to deal with that. I feel as if they're going to go ahead and it's going to work out fine. I was just trying to be a little sarcastic and funny, but
it didn't work. And we have all the listeners coming in. Holy shit, are we for an apocalypse?
I'm going to finance my next grocery shopping. Okay, so jobs in the labor market, getting into more numbers, more exciting numbers. August saw, this is actually really interesting. Non-farm payroll went up 22,000 jobs, which is amazing. The unemployment rate still 4.3%. Healthcare added 31,000 jobs. And this is all for August. I'm sorry. For August, we saw 22,000 more jobs created. Healthcare adding 31,000 jobs. There were losses in, you're going to not believe this, government jobs, mining, wholesale trade, and there was a average hourly earnings increase of 0.3%, which is excellent. The July numbers were revised up to 79,000 jobs created instead of 73,000. So 6,000 more jobs. The unemployment rate was changed to 4.2%. Our unemployment rate has gone slightly upwards since July. June was revised from a 14,000 job creation down to a 13,000 job loss, a 27,000 swing down. Wow. June's unemployment rate was 4.1%. So it looks like unemployment's been going up 0.1 each month, which is not a huge change, but not insignificant. June's revision turned it from a modest growth into a slight contraction in payrolls. Average hourly earnings slightly up. Our employment looks positive instead of June's negative. Long-term unemployment seems unchanged month to month.
Going into the fourth quarter, you have a lot of seasonal jobs that are going to start opening up at FedEx and UPS, and all of these logistics type Amazon companies are going to be gearing up because of the holidays. And it's going to, like I said, it's going to be an interesting landscape, but I feel that the Fed is going to cut one more time. I don't see two cuts personally. I would love it to be the real thing, but again, we're going to see what happens and go from there. We just have to adjust and be nimble. What I tell all of our clients is you have to be aware of what's happening today and not worry about what's going to happen, because you don't know what's going to happen. And the reality is this: whether you get in at 7 1/4, 7 1/8, 7 3/8, even if the market dropped a quarter point, it doesn't always reflect. So you might pick up an eighth or a quarter, but at the end of the day, it's not so much to refinance, because you're not going to refinance again for at least getting 1 point, 1 1/4 point. So unless rates get down below 6%, no one who's getting in the market now here at this level is going to refinance. That's a reality. And personally, I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I think you're going to be in this range, low 6s to 6.5 to 6 3/4 on your conventional stuff. I don't think we're going to see any 5s at all for at least 2 years. That's my personal opinion. I think there's a lot has to happen before we can get comfortable with that, and before things can really change to that perspective. But overall, I'm not concerned. I just think people need to act faster. That's really the thing. Jay, I
We need
feel
to
the
understand
same
the
way.
cards are dealt. We need to deal with what's in front of us, and none of us have a crystal ball. With the Fed governor trying to learn how to look forward and getting bullshit data in the back end to make these decisions that affect people on their day to day, it makes it really challenging. Just listen to your experts.
I had a great question for Jason. He's a big Barry Habib fan. So I'm sure you saw this in the last couple of days. August saw the largest surge in new home sales in 3 years, which was 20% surge in new home sales this last August. So obviously the rates were lower before the rate cut, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone was excited for the rate cut. The market reacted positively and then the rate cut happened. However, everyone was getting in. And so the opportunity was there. And that was the greatest number in 3 years. A difference of a quarter point or an eighth of a point is not a big enough impact on your monthly payment to say that those people in August were right and now it's wrong.
Psychological.
Yes.
It's all psychological. And now they're scrambling. I'm curious to see what happens if those close because the rates adjusted and they're not locked. Usually new home builds take a long time. You're in at a 60, 90-day minimum before anything happens. So I'm curious to see what happens. But let's move on to our next topic. Are we going to handle Mr. Kimmel?
Yeah, we could talk about Kimmel. The Kimmel thing's interesting. So, Jason, I'm curious your take on this. Why was Jimmy Kimmel fired?
He deserved it.
Let's hear it.
I don't even know why they brought him back. I don't even understand that. It's, oh, that's free speech. You're a foreigner, so you should know what it takes. Why you should be so mad about that. He said some stupid shit. He should be taken off. I don't believe you can just talk bad about people like that, and it's not right. And then my daughter's, you don't understand what free speech is about. And I'm like, okay. So
That sounds like a fun conversation. I'd like to be a fly in the wall on that one to watch you. Free speech. Yes, you're allowed to say what you want and what you feel. When I have a job and I work for someone, no matter who I am, there are guidelines and regulations and opinions of people who own companies that, unfortunately to him, even though he's a star, it's not about him. It's about the business. And if 5 huge corporate companies want to pull off the air because they felt like, whoa, that was crazy, what he said, there might be some weight behind that. Now, there's a bunch of opinion about what happened on the back end because there was a tweet that happened that Alan was telling me about before we came on air. Alan, you'll go into that in a second. Basically, I don't think the power of a tweet should be able to get someone off the air. I think we should look, and the word for today is accountability. And if you're going to be a piece of shit, you're going to get treated like that. There's accountability. That's consequences. That's the word I was looking for. There's consequences for your actions. You're a dad. You have that. Hey, there's consequences. You got that word, right?
Alan, what are the consequences?
So I think it's important to note exactly what he said, and I have the transcript in front of me. This was the quote that got him fired. We were hit with some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang trying to characterize the kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. That was it. He didn't say Charlie Kirk deserved to die. He didn't say anything crazy. He just said the kid who shot him, they're trying to pin a political party on him and score points off of it. That's what he said. And regardless of if that's true, that's a pretty crazy thing to get fired over. In my opinion, do you remember there was a bakery that refused to make a cake for a gay couple's wedding? That was the start of all of this. All of this can be traced back to the cake. It's freedom of speech. That bakery, it went to court, was not required to make the cake for the gay couple. The gay couple sued them because they were like, this is hate speech. And the bakery was like, it's a free speech because we have Christian beliefs. We're not going to make that cake. It was upheld. They didn't have to make the cake. So the same thing happens here. At what point is the person saying something within their right to say it? I don't think that he should get fired, but the proper response would be, like Jason's saying, lose all their viewership, and then they could get their show taken away that way. You know what I mean? If it was so controversial.
Is he very popular again? I've never watched him. I'm not into that stuff.
I'm sure Jason will tell you, talk shows are not making money.
He is popular for what it is. I've actually enjoyed his show over the years. He's politically doesn't necessarily align what I do on all things. So, I always take it. Late night jokes always make fun of the government. That it's just a given, right? There's too much material. But I've actually had a chance to meet Jimmy Kimmel in person when I lived in LA, and he was a horrible person.
Oh no, you're going to get taken
He
off the air.
was super rude. He was super expecting everything. He was there with his family, his wife, everything else. I worked in the service industry, and he was a piece of shit. He was one of the
No.
worst customers I've ever had.
Wow.
And for me to sit there and watch him, yeah, he has some funny bits and whatnot. Should he be fired? No, he could be like, what's the guy that got fired from CNN that now does his own podcast on the street, Don Lemon or something like that?
Yeah.
He could go out and do stuff. He has enough money to make his own show. He could go on YouTube and podcasts and whatnot. It's not that there's not opportunities for him. It's just that your platform to go across general America and push your opinion that way was not classy. And I'm glad it's an example, because if we look back, we keep talking about Jimmy Kimmel, but we're not bringing up people like Tucker Carlson, the president, all the things that happened with taking him off Twitter and Facebook and censoring during COVID, and the government's outreach and trying to make it happen that way, which is proven with actual documents. And actually the company's coming up and saying, hey, they told us that don't do this because it's misinformation and it doesn't align with the narrative. They're worried about public safety with vaccines. So don't go out there and say no vaccines or question it. Don't question it, just do it. F that. I'm going to question everything. You came up with this mystery vaccine in 6 months, and I'm supposed to do it, and it's mandated. Alan, go, because I know I triggered you.
Now, rounding back to the Kimmel thing, I think what separates this from the other items is that there were, like you're saying, tweets and public remarks from the FCC and from the president where they basically said, your licenses, ABC, the parent company, could be revoked. Your broadcasting licenses could be taken away because of what Jimmy Kimmel is saying. And it's no longer a corporation deciding that their employee needs to be fired for what they're saying. I can't work at Starbucks, walk into the store, and not serve people of color. The corporation would fire me. But when the government stepped in and said, your business will be taken away, your license will be taken away because of what he's saying, then it became stifling free speech. I think if ABC just fired the guy and there was no government intervention at all, wouldn't have been a problem, in my opinion.
But that's a double. He can't go out and have free speech on their own platform to go ahead and say things or have opinions. It's not law. It's not thing that's done in a courtroom.
Yes,
it's not private meetings that are
specifically-
happening.
Here's the fun ones. ABC specifically met on the firing of Kimmel. The day that it happened, they met and said, and this is directly from ABC, all their top executives did not want to fire him, but they had to because they were scared of Donald Trump and Brendan Carr at the FCC. ABC themselves said that before firing
But
Kimmel.
they just rehired him back, though.
Correct. So the government basically came under all this slack. They feel like they're in a strong enough position to hire him back. If the government does something about it and they pull their licensing, the government looks bad. It was like now they're in the position of power because the nation was like, we got to support.
But is now Jimmy Kimmel super popular? Did this catapult his show?
4 times the viewership of his highest viewed episode on Tuesday.
6.5 million viewers on his comeback show.
How crazy is that?
Wow.
Don't
Best
worry,
thing
he
that could've
came out
happened
and
to him.
cried in front of everybody. I think he's been taking acting lessons.
What did he say? Did he come out and be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that happened in my life?
Oh, he was like, I'm really sorry, but I was just trying to say this. And I just read right through it as bullshit,
Got it.
personally.
That's it. So
That's
he
it.
bullshitted his way out back to the TV.
But good for him. And free speech should be out there. Let me say that. Free speech should be out there, and you
Right.
have the right to do. Just understand that in life, there's consequences. And there's consequences. Watch your actions.
My favorite
So-
line. Sorry. Freedom of speech, not freedom from consequences. That's J-Rock.
Yep.
So speaking of consequences, let's shift to Charlie Kirk, because this is something that
Oh, man.
it's rough. It's so hard to unsee that video. It's so sad with his wife and kids, but what are the consequences to that guy who shot him? Do we know why? Do we know anything? You hear different narratives. Oh, it was the political. Oh, it was the Democrats, but he's really a Republican and he was too radical for the Republicans and he felt that the Republicans weren't radical enough. Where does this go? At the end of the day, he changed the trajectory of America.
Oh, yeah.
I think what this moment did is that it created a space. People want to go left, they want to go right, they want to talk about all the things you're just talking about. But I think what's most prevalent is the mental health of America, and the narrative of how people perceive and are indoctrinated through large media sources or threads they follow on social media and clips they see and things that they don't agree with. It's this opinion-based news we have in America that you can go ahead and say anything you want. Even when the presidents are running for office, they could say anything because under the law, they're allowed to say the other person's doing stuff, and they say lie back and forth. But what I'm really saying is that the mental health of America needs to be visited. It needs to be prevalent. It needs to be in the forefront of this discussion. We're all human, but we're indoctrinated into ideals of who we are as people from our environments. And mental health is really a huge key, in my opinion.
I was going to say, I have the most up-to-date that I've heard of the whole situation. The first thing anyone tried to do was, he was a leftist, he was a rightist. The most up-to-date was that the Justice Department came out and said, Kash Patel's FBI, they were like, hey, we can't align him with the left. There's nothing showing he's a leftist. And his own family said, we can't align him with the right. He was fighting with us all the time. So there's no political affiliation that anyone can pin on him. And I think that speaks to what Jason is saying. The most important thing was this guy spent days online. They found his text logs, his online servers where he confessed to the crime. It's clear this guy was completely radicalized by seeing nonstop hateful, violent stuff on the internet and then having no way to take that out in a healthy way. He didn't speak to his family about it. He didn't speak to anybody about it. And then he went and did this terrible thing. So I think you're right, Jason. Mental health is the culprit here. I don't know.
It's mental health. And then people say gun control, right? Like gun control is the big part of it. One thing, did we ever find out, like, was the weapon from his dad? Does he have a military background?
I think it was his grandfather's, which he took from his dad.
So it was a family weapon.
Pretty good shot to shoot from the distance, right? I mean,
that's the thing, Meyer. That's like, what I was getting at.
Do we know, does he have any military experience that he can shoot like that?
He's a hunter.
That's pretty crazy. If you think about it, I saw bits and pieces of the memorial and whatnot. The stadium was full, right?
Yeah, 300,000 people or something. It was crazy.
I'm here in Arizona. It was crazy.
Just shows, can we come up and be better from this? That's really, like, after 9/11, for a while, the country felt like we were getting better, banded together, and then it started to fade off again. Is this going to re-trigger that? Do you think this is going to be like, hey, America, let's band together? Or is this going to be more of blaming the left and the right, not really look at what happened? It was tragic.
Unfortunately, I think it's the latter of what you said due to the current environment in the country. And what I was speaking to about the mainstream medias and the socials and the opinion-based, it's your fault, it's your fault, everyone blaming each other. There needs to be unity in this country, and there needs to be justice for all of us together. And it's just, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our free speech. With great power comes great responsibility. Our greatest power inside is our freedom of speech and our freedoms here in America. And to handle that, not everyone handles it the same way because we don't all have the same measure. We're indoctrinated in our own ways.
Can I have my 5 minutes to bash? Can I talk, S?
Sure.
Yeah, because you don't end with the CNN quote.
It is a very tasteful moment to talk. I'm sorry. Obama tweets out on the day of, this is terrible. Political violence is never the answer, whether you agree with someone or not. Joe Biden tweets out exactly the same thing. Hearts, family, everything needs to be given to the support of the kids, etc. Then we have Donald Trump go on national television saying, the radical left did this, they're terrorists, they're trying to kill us. And then we have Charlie Kirk's memorial where the wife of Charlie Kirk goes on stage and she goes, I forgive the shooter. And it was supposed to be this beautiful moment of we're coming together. Donald Trump goes on stage right after and he goes, I hate my enemies, everyone on the left, I hate them. On national television live. Like, it's, how do we have this disconnect where one party's going, this was clearly a bad thing. We don't know who the shooter was, left or right. But one party's going, political violence is never the answer. Support the family, never do this. And the other half goes, it's their fault, get them, they're trying to kill us. That doesn't seem right to me.
Cherry picking.
Yeah,
I agree.
They beat the shit out of him. They made him miserable for the last 4 years, the whole time.
Maybe.
Yeah, they went after him. They did everything.
They shot him.
The guy, no, it's true. The guy literally doesn't need to do this for the money. His family's making a lot of money because of everything that's going on. I read something crazy that Barron Trump, with the crypto and everything, after all of his stuff's come due, he'll be worth $500 million.
Kid? Like the 16
the youngest.
Oh,
No, he's
19.
He's in college, but the two sons are almost billionaires. Yes, they all did well. But at the end of the day, they didn't need it. And the truth, he really cares.
I hope that his response tapers down, though, where he's, you know what? Let's come together. Because I haven't heard that in a while, and I feel like that's important right now. Like Jason's saying, 9/11 brought the country together, and I really hope this is a moment where we're all just, hold on. It's a bit crazy.
So my favorite thing to your ideology right now is him coming on stage and saying, let's bring the country together. And then watching all the news stations go, what a piece of shit he is for trying to bring the country together when we're in this atmosphere, and totally twisting it on everything.
If it
you want
happens,
certain
yeah,
words
you can
from
tell me.
someone that you guys don't listen to and that you bash every chance you get.
Jason's
Just
fired
know
up.
that we
That's
all
it.
want for each other.
It's true. And I hope that when he does do that, and if you see an article on CNN that says Donald Trump wants peace in America, what an asshole, then you can come on the podcast and yell at me about it. I want to be there.
I'm just calling a spade, man.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. God bless. Money Matrix Podcast. Go in bank. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Nice
Thanks,
to talk
guys.
again.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up, all the way up.